So let's go ahead and see one more of those.
Okay.
And this will just be, again, somewhere between probably 90, 95, 100. Okay, and we're just dropping and turning while managing the club. Oh, that's so good. Look how good the ball is. Like, I love Alex, but I also hate him so much. That's so good.
Drop.
What up, dog?
What up, man?
Here with Alex Lobeck, one of our awesome friggin' coaches down here in Arizona, one of our leads. And we get to talk about something that's really super freaking fun today.
Yes, we do.
Yep.
It's my favorite part of the physical game of golf.
Alex is well, I mean, shoot, we've got however many coaches, 13 coaches in the academy. Absolutely the best, like, freak mode iron player and wedger of all the coaches. Like, it's the truth, right? So the whole reason that we, like, I remember getting upset actually with you, because I'm hitting wedges and I always thought I was kind of a good wedge player, and then I'm watching your ball and it was like substantially better than mine, and I'm like, what is going on? So I had to, like, run in, go grab Flight Scope, bring it out, and we, like, looked at these numbers.
That was like the first. So I've always taken wedges seriously in my, like, golf game. I've always prioritized it because I've understood that that's where you score.
Yeah.
But before we hung out on the back that day, that was the first day I realized that, like, oh, okay, my wedges are actually good, and, like, here's why they're actually good.
Exactly.
Like, you actually brought up the data points on why my wedge game actually, like, was really, really solid.
Sure.
And I had never thought about that before, ever.
Yeah. I'm not going to put you in savant category.
But I wouldn't either.
Like, if you think about, like, savants, like, they don't even know why they're good at this thing, right? Like, somebody that just goes and sits down at a piano and then starts playing,
right?
They don't know why they're great. They just do it. To get more into the specifics of what this video is really going to be about, this is all distance wedges. When we're talking distance wedges, like, can you give, in your mind, like, what that gapping really is? Where does it start? Where does it kind of end?
I think, like, for my golf game, I consider distance wedges, like, right around that 40 yard. Starts right around that 40 yard range and goes, I'd say, like, 120.
Okay.
Right, because distance wedges, I'm never considering, like, a full swing wedge. I'm never, like, in my brain, I'm like, okay, I got to hit this wedge full.
That's a great way to put it.
What can I control each wedge at to kind of have a consistent ball flight, consistent spin, and kind of where does that golf ball go from there?
So you brought up two, like, huge points that I think most people just don't understand. So, one, a full wedge. What is a full wedge? Like, at what pace do you feel like you're going at? If you had, like, 100% capacity, what percentage are you at for a, like, let's say it's pitching wedge?
Right.
What amount of energy are you putting into that for a full wedge?
I would say no more than 80.
Okay,
That's my goal, is no more than 80. I think there's moments where, you know, you've got, like, that perfect number where it's like, okay, you can afford to kind of give it a little bit more.
What I'd like to see, this will be your first rep of the day,
This is the first one
to do. Here we go. The ice cold, baby. Let's hit us just kind of not a stock wedge, but something that's kind of 3/4 or whatever. What club do you have?
I got lob wedge.
You got lob, so 60?
Yeah, 60.
Okay, 60 degrees. So what are we going to throw, like a 60 or 70 yard shot out there?
This will probably go about 70 yards.
Okay, perfect. Just go ahead and show us that action, man. Just a nice solid one.
Okay.
Ice cold. So that's so good. God, I wish people could actually see that ball. It's so good. And, like, it's awesome. And, like, one of the things that I want you to notice, go ahead and hit us one more here, Alex, is the cadence in which Alex swings wedges. And this is why, like, I think he thinks on full swings, full wedges, he's going at 80%. Like, that ball is so flighted, just such a dart. Let's go into kind of some specifics of this, like how folks can try it. So number one, we're going to hit on this, like, main topic a ton. We need super, super low speed in the rotation of the chest. Yeah. Because the more energy somebody's putting in here to rotate, and I've got a golf club that's loaded back here. Yep. As I rotate, it's going to spit energy out of the golf club. Yep. And so that unload, right now, the actual loft of the golf club at the strike is heightened because the shaft isn't leaning forward. Yep. So that may be good for mid irons up into driver and like longer full shots.
Yeah, and even if you're trying to hit like a special, like if you got like a front pin and you got to stop one, like that's what you need to do.
Yeah. Let's just talk about shaft lean first, like a really simple way to look at shaft lean. Alex, if you could just face the camera and go ahead and set up. So at address, we're in an unloaded position in the hand complex.
Sure.
Okay, right? Like it's super soft in here, relatively soft in here. The shaft is leaning forward a couple of degrees. It's nothing ridiculous, right? And it's not maybe neutral where it's 0. It's leaning forward a couple of degrees.
Yep.
Well, if we just did this, go ahead and keep your chest facing here.
Okay.
Just picked it up and put it back over here. That would be a loaded position.
Okay.
Would you agree?
Yes.
Like you can probably feel it in the hand and like forearm complex.
Yep.
The golf club's loaded up, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
So let's just take this structure of the arms, hands, and club and turn it back into the strike utilizing the chest. So you're going to keep this structure the same and just turn, turn, turn. Ah.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden we have shaft lean.
Huge.
There you go. So a good map, if we go back to neutral again, is at some point in the backswing, you can go ahead and turn now. Let's turn in the backswing, the golf club gets loaded. Well, from here, we just want to motor this complex back into the strike just using chest. So all you're going to do is drop a bit and turn. And now all of a sudden we get in the same look. Okay, so all we're doing is really loading the golf club or leveraging it in the backswing, and then from there just looking to turn that into the strike.
Yeah.
So let's hit one out there, just feeling that. As I throw your golf clubs, don't mind me. Okay, still like kind of that 3/4-y one, but that's the picture in the mind. Good. That feel nice?
It does feel nice. I also got a little bit extra distance there with it too.
So what's interesting, the extra distance comes because we have less loft all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like if I load it and then I just motor it in, like that 60-degree golf club is no longer 60 degrees.
Yeah, you turned it into a sand wedge.
Yeah, like, or even less.
Maybe,
like I've got 50.
Yeah.
Oh, let's do that one more time. Go ahead and set up to it. Okay, and we're just going to swing it into the backswing. Again, kind of a 3/4 look. Okay, good. The only thing that I want players to really manage, and this is kind of the weird thing, this is a theme for us at all times, is if you just start to drop and turn, see where that golf club wants to go?
Yeah,
and you're really, it wants to
out.
go over. Yeah, exactly. So if you're a good player, you're going to recover with just side bend to tilt it under, and now we've got big issues.
Yeah.
No good. So we've got to manage the tool at the same time. So if we go back up to the top again, so as you're dropping and turning, we need the center of mass of the club.
It needs to go behind.
It needs to go behind some, so go ahead and start dropping and turning. And so now we've got it in a delivery position that's nice. It's back here. So now, as I keep working this down behind, look at the difference in the angle of attack that I'm going to have here. It's still going to be a shallow angle of attack.
Very shallow.
If the club were up here, if we didn't organize it,
Yeah.
this angle of attack is a heck of a lot more severe.
Yeah.
The downward angle is going to be crazy.
Yep.
That shallows it.
Super
So
shallow.
we're managing the angle of attack.
Yep.
So if you're a guy that's hitting these, right, and you're going, okay, I'm going to drop and turn, and you can just sense like, dude, I'm just taking freaking pelts, right? And this is like the poor man's way of looking at angle of attack, which is fine. Like most folks aren't going to go out with like TrackMan, Flight Scope, whatever, big heavy technology.
Most people don't have access to all those numbers.
Yes, you just need to manage these two things. Like one, okay, this is easy to see that I've got the golf club leverage.
Sure.
I'm going to motor here, so now I have less loft, and I'm keeping the load.
Correct.
Right? I'm not letting this go.
Yeah, and I mean the low, you're not letting it go due to the rate of what we're rotating at.
Exactly. And the only other thing that you just, again, need to manage, and when I'm saying manage, like the analogy that typically we use is like how we're seasoning up our steak, right? If you like some peppercorns on your steak, that's great, but there's a point where there's too many on there and you're like, I want some steak with my pepper now, right? So it's not that you need to get crazy with shallowing the golf club or having the golf club get behind you. Some people need that, some people really don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead and hit us a couple more, Alex, if you could, just these like little 70-yarders. Beautiful. Okay, so now let's do this. Same overall pattern in your mind, but let's go to full now.
Okay.
So this will be a full stock, if you will, lob wedge.
I don't hit many of these.
Yep. That's so good. So that ball,
about 90.
That ball is awesome, and made a super interesting comment before hitting that shot. I don't hit too many of these. Why don't you hit too many of those?
With lob wedge, you've got 60 degrees of loft, and it's one of those yardages where if I do need to hit this full, I've probably got a yardage with my sand wedge that I can control a little bit better.
And I bet dollars to donuts you're hitting sand wedge so you can keep the ball.
I want the ball flight a little bit lower.
Exactly.
I feel like when I take full swings with my wedges, it's just a little out of control. You know, the speed gets a little quick, the timing's maybe just a little bit off, but I'm really paying attention to how much can I control the golf ball as it flies and as it lands on the green.
So you're talking about this word control. Control with a wedge. Like we hear about driver all the time. We want high launch, low spin balls. Nobody talks about wedges. Wedges, we want low launch, high spin. It's the opposite.
That's where a lot of people are like, why would I launch my wedges lower? That's not going to produce as much spin. It actually does exactly that.
Exactly that. It's the total opposite of what most people think of. Most people think of low launch as like this stinger bullet that's just like, right? That's not how a wedge responds. Like that one right there is so cool because good wedgers, the ball looks, this is so hard to explain. The ball looks aggressive and soft all at one time. It's
That's a good way to put it.
Like it's here, but when it lands, it looks like a sandbag, right? It's not this like big, high, floaty one that just floats all over the place. So when you're saying out of control number one is going to be vertical launch that's way too high.
Yes.
While at the same time, the spin is going to go down because of that. And now it's this knuckleball that floats and it's in the air for way too long. Your proximity is going to be horrible that way. Let's touch on this one last thing. This will be a good place to kind of finalize this video. Is we're talking about angle of attack, but when we're speaking about angle of attack, like when you see that on any technology, they're talking about the angle of attack at the moment of the ball. Right there. So if I'm bottoming out here, right, I'm going to be climbing into the ball, so that angle of attack is going to be high.
Sure.
So if I got a golf club that's working up and I skinny it, that ain't going to work like that. So we got to manage the bottom out here. How are you managing the bottom out?
I'll be honest, as soon as you asked that, I was like, I don't really know.
That's
usually my answer to a lot of things. Throwing low point with a wedge, it's got to be in the speed of the swing. Once I get a little too quick, that's where low point gets all out of control for me.
So how Alex is speaking, by the way, is how we would like every single player to speak, because it's so funny. There's this like bell curve. Like you learn, all these things. And then once you get like a really accomplished golf swing, it turns out to be like you start talking like a 30 handicapper again. I'm trying to like control my rhythm. It's just like these super like regular things to say, but we got to understand where those come from. So you say this really awesome deal, which is like I'm managing like how much energy I put in it, and I'm keeping energy low. Okay, well, if we look at low point, go ahead and set up in here for us, and we'll just do this together. We'll just hug the club, good posture. We've talked about back chain dominance. Again, you can stay right there. Back chain dominance is simply my pelvis being behind the center of mass of my ribs. So at address, obviously, we're in back chain dominance right now. Well, this is why we want, like especially with wedges, you can start to understand this idea of flexion in the hips and rotation in the thoracic or in the ribs, in that when I drop and I turn to go over here, see where my head's going? It just automatically moves over here. The center of mass of my ribs, my head, is more lead side dominant now, and my pelvis is still in flexion behind the center of mass of my ribs. Like right now, still in back chain. We just need to see it in 3D space. The 3D space is rotation. So I'm rotating, there's backswing. If I drop and turn the chest, now all of a sudden the center of mass of my ribs is up ahead of where the golf ball would be. And so when you say manage speed, I sure can't do that with speed, because if I turn hard here, it's going to pull on the pelvis. That's where the spiral line goes. And I'll look like this more. That's why driver extends earlier, because I have more energy in the system. Well, wedges, we sure as heck don't want to do that. Because now we're just sending moon balls out there for a lot of different reasons. Okay, so like overall theme, and I know we're only hitting like a few different shots, like we were just talked about 3/4 and 100. I don't know about you, but like I'm not a huge fan of like this idea of like 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock with every single wedge, and then 10 to 2, and like doing that because it's so like dependent on energy. I could do 9 to 3 firm, or I could do 9 to 3 really lazy, and I'm going to get a way different look.
Yeah.
So I would prefer more like a system. It's almost basketball system in that I've got one way of shooting, and I can shoot it that way from 7 feet and just know the touch on the ball compared to 15. It's the same system, but we almost want to go, okay, there's 40 yards. I know my system, what's the amount of energy that I'm going to put in? So if we've got this idea of just that, like, that's a great place to start. I think the last thing to throw on here is when we're talking stock shots, we need to go to maximum energy in the ribs until we get to a ball that's outside of the launch zone. So
paying attention to where the golf ball launches, and then kind of keep, I mean, that's just a mental note to make. Everyone's going to be a little bit different too.
Well, a little bit, but those numbers...
A little bit.
Yeah, and they'll be vastly different with what they actually feel person to person, but the numbers should be very similar. Like the ball with lob wedge on stock shouldn't be above 32 degrees of launch, which is going to be crazy low for a lot of folks, because most folks, they're going to launch it at 45 degrees. So 32 is like, what? But they'll probably end up actually hitting it the same distance, if not further, with way less energy here.
Most likely, yes.
Yeah. And then we get to sand wedge, like you said, like your pitching wedge is an iron, so it responds a little bit different, but sand wedge will be somewhere in like the 28 maximum launch. Gap wedge will be in the like 24, 25. And then pitching wedge was, again, 18 to 22 for you, which is fantastic. And again, if you need to launch it higher, like, okay, we can do that. But 95% of the time we need, boom,
we're just talking like stock wedges, like how to hit consistent stock wedges just on a daily basis. Like there's going to be times where you got to launch it really high. Obviously, there's going to be times where you got to launch a little throw. But yeah, those are specialty shots.
But almost everybody, man, if they just knew how to hit a stock wedge, if they're a good ball striker from driver to 6-iron, dude, awesome. You're going to have like loads of wedge opportunities. Just hit a stock wedge, you're going to be inside 20, 25 feet most of the time. That's a birdie opportunity.
We're just hitting the green in general.
You can't miss greens with friggin' wedge in your hand. You got to command the ball. Okay, distance wedges.
Awesome, nice.
Flushies.
Hey, if you enjoyed this video, we have a whole host of others for you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Really helps us out. Talk to you soon.